Howdy everyone, this is LockNutz, and you're watching a map tour of Hobos Hollow by Haggis. Hopefully you'll stick around to see what happens. Howdy, 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 how are you guys doing today? Oh my goodness, I tell you what, today we get to do a map tour of Hobos Hollow 4X map by Haggis. Ooh, I tell you what, let's get up from here. Oh yeah, stretching out. I just love coming down by the lake and throwing a line in. Oh boy, I tell you what, this little butte is 273.09 megabytes to download, and currently it is only for PC. So we got that going for us. Ooh, man. I tell you what, before we get too far into things, let's go ahead and read what the map maker has to say. Welcome to Hobos Hollow 4X map. Enter the land that time has forgot, where the weeds grow thick and the hobos roam free. There are 57 fields of various sizes and a selection of forestry plots to suit all of your logging needs. The map includes a selection of empty plots that are ideal for production placement or maybe starting a new farm. There are 8 sell points, a sawmill, debris crusher, etc., and a starter farm with everything you need to get started on new farmer mode. Benefit from a custom growth calendar which allows double cropping. Plant a winter crop and harvest next summer. If you're quick enough, you can plant again and that harvest in the autumn. Ooh, I tell you what, step back in time on Hobos Hollow with your very own taste of rural USA. Have fun and happy farming. Now that is pretty darn slick, I tell you what. Before we really jump into too much of everything, let's go ahead and take a look at what they're talking about with those custom cycles. All right, and here's what they're getting at with those custom cycles. As you can see, you can potentially go ahead and plant twice on this map. I mean, this is super slick. Super slick. It's kind of how it's like in reality, where if you can get your stuff in early enough in spring, sometimes you can go ahead and harvest it, get something else in. Super cool. So this is what they're talking about for custom cycles going through here. Not too shabby. If that is your cup of tea. If it's not, well, there are other things that you can go ahead and jump into. And speaking of jumping into things, let's go ahead and see what vehicles you'd start with if you do start off a new farmer mode. All right, let's jump right into this. We have ourselves one New Holland for small tractors. Medium tractors, you have both the John Deere and Massey Ferguson. Nice little workhorses that you got in there. Harvesters-wise, we do have the Deutz-Fahr Topliner along with one Deutz-Fahr grain header. And of course, it does come along with the matching set of the Deutz-Fahr Topliner header trailer. Pretty darn slick. You do start off with one pickup truck. It is red. It is beautiful. You get yourself one trailer, one cultivator, one subsoiler. That's kind of neat. You get yourself a seeder, a fertilizer spreader, fertilizer and lime spreader, a front loader, a universal bucket for an attacher, and you do get yourself a pair of weights, so that's not too shabby. That's what we got going on for equipment. Let's see what you get when you start off a new farmer mode for land. Alrighty then, so here is what we got for a map. As you guys can see, we do have various sell points spread out through this entire location here. You got your one sawmill here, various different sell points, like I said. Gas station, so it's not too shabby, pretty slick. It's not all clustered together. It's relatively spread out. It's kind of nice for being able to drive around and see the scenery of what's going on here. And you can see there are various field sizes throughout here. Now let's take a look and see what you'd have If you start off in new farmer mode, you start off with this one plot of land over here, which does have a farmyard and one field to go with it, but that's not all. Let's go ahead and see what you have going on for other things on here. Now, the cheapest field that you got on here is field 3, right next to where you're starting off at 99,000, not too shabby. And then when you go jump up to the largest field, you got field 57 right over here, and that's a cool $2.5 million. Ooh, boy, that's a whole lot. Oh man, and there are these areas in here that are forestry areas as well, so you kind of have that going for you. This little plot right here is the cheapest forestry area that you have at 306,000, and then this one right across the way from it is the most expensive for $1.4 million. So bit of a price difference in there. Now, there are two other special things that you can go ahead and buy on this. You can buy the exterior for a whopping $35.3 million. I have that lying around, so I mean, that makes sense. Plus, there are these areas right here. Now, these areas are the areas that they're talking about for, not that one, they're talking about for the placeable areas, for going ahead and setting stuff up. These are all the locations where you can go ahead, and they have the sell points on there as well. Except for, I believe, yep, except for this one location right up here. This is the one that's not like that. And all these areas are here for $2 million. So you got that going for you. Now, if we kind of jump around, you can see that, the field prices are pretty high. I'm not going to lie. For this size of map, these size of fields, these field prices are pretty darn expensive. So you're probably going to, if you want to jump into things, you're really going to have to probably take out a loan and get heavily invested in things. But like I said, other than that, you do have lots of options on where you can go ahead and start your farm up and get yourself rocking and rolling. Let's go ahead back to this. There is no BGA, but you can go ahead and put the BGA up if you want to. These are your sell points, and that's what you're looking at. But like I said, you can go ahead and kind of build this up however the heck you want to, and everything is really relatively spread out for you to be able to go about building things exactly the way you want to go about building them. So at this point here, let's back on out and take a walk up. Ooh, there's a deer. Holy cats. Let's take a walk up away from the nice fishing lake here and check out what's going on before we go on a little whirlwind tour of ours. All right, so one of the things that I like to do, guys, is I like to go ahead and leave that map up in the corner. That way you guys can follow along with me and see exactly what's happening. So let's bring this map up just a little bit bigger so we can kind of take a peek at it. I think we're going to go check out our starting farm location and then just kind of take a little tour around the exterior and interior of the map, kind of taking a look at fields as we go along. So let's come on over here. Watch out so we don't smash into anything. Perfect. Nice little fishing hole to get away from the strenuous days of farming. Ooh, pretty darn slick, pretty darn slick. Now, I'm going to give you guys a warning right now. One of the things that I like to do here is I like to go ahead and drive on the fields. Now, that might bother some people, but I think it really gives you an opportunity to see the lay of the land, take a look how things end up looking, for what you're going to end up needing for your little endeavors. Oh my gosh. Oh boy. All right, well, that wasn't too good right there. Let's get out of there. Oh man, get ourselves back up onto the road here, because I do want to show you how you do get to your starting farm. Right down this road over here, kind of a nice little setup, nice slick little thing here. You got your culvert right there along the side of the road, or your drainage ditch, whatever you want to call it. Now this field right there, that's your starting field. Relatively small, relatively flat. All in all, a good place to kind of get yourself started up with. And as we're heading back over here, it's kind of neat how you have this little tiny road, driveway, whatever you want to call it, kind of beat up, a little rough around the edges. It brings you right back to where your starting farm is. It's pretty darn slick, pretty darn slick. You got yourself your old beat up barn right here. You got your shed, and you have a silo for filling stuff up or storing your crops or whatnot. All in all, it's not a large industrial type farm. It's more or less a smaller family farm setup here where you got a little bit of a yard, a house for a sell point, or not sell point, a save point, and it's pretty darn nice. Pretty darn nice right there. I like this. I like this. Growing up in more of a rural America type setting, this definitely has a big feel when it comes to small family farms that you'll find around the U.S., where you kind of have some of these little bit longer, beat-up driveways, house sitting back a little bit, small-time farm. It doesn't look like it's been upkept in the best condition because, you know, you're farming. I mean, that's what you got to do. Let's drive along this small road here for just a minute. I will go ahead and drive into town in just a minute or two here, but first, let's kind of cut across this because, as you can see, you are looking at relatively flat land here with some little bumps and bruises and undulations, if that's what you want to call it, all over the place. It's not too bad. You probably aren't going to run into too many requirements over in this area of the map where you really have to upsize your vehicles. Like if you got a plow or something and you're driving uphill, normally, you know, you have to go ahead and get something a little bit more beefy, a little bit more fulfilling. I guess that's a good way of looking at it. But here, that's not necessarily the case. Now, unfortunately, as you guys can see right here, trying to come across something like this might not be too easy. You're probably going to end up getting yourself stuck more than you're not going to. But let's head across over here and take a look at some of these bits and pieces around kind of the edge of the map area. I believe this is part of that selling, or the $35 million area. So, I mean, you may not be going out and purchasing this right off the bat, but as you can see, there are trees here that you do have the capability of coming up here and getting some of this stuff. The forest areas are relatively thick. It's convenient that we just kind of got ourselves in a little opening right here, but it does open things up for you to really be able to jump on stuff and really figure out what's going on. Let's go ahead and hop back in this guy and get ourselves back on the main road. Shoot, little thick, kind of hard to see coming through here. I don't want to get into the river. That would not be cool. There are some places, no matter where you're at on the map, there are ways to get across the river, whether you have a situation like right here where there's an actual bridge to get across, or if you have like a little, I don't know, a high spot where you can cross through the water. That's kind of what you're going to end up seeing. No matter what, one way or another, you can get across wherever you're at. So again, let's kind of take a peek up through here. As you can see, guys, like I said, I mean, now we're starting to get into some hilly areas where you may end up having to go ahead and get a little higher up in horsepower just to make things happen. Really make a go at what you're doing here. Alright, hop on this little road right over here. Don't want to smash into anything. Traffic doesn't seem to be too bad. Doesn't seem to be too much. Doesn't seem to be going absolutely crazy. As you can see off to the left-hand side here, you do end up having some more flat land. Let's come and take a little peek at this over here since I see we got a bit of a hill. Yeah, that's definitely going to cause you some problems. Even that kind of struggled getting up there. So I guess word for advice is when you're coming into town and you're doing things, you really want to go ahead and coming into town. When you're coming out looking at buying fields, you're really going to want to take a look at this stuff before you end up buying, because you may end up kind of regretting it. If you go ahead and you're not really set up for I don't know, like large farming, anything like that, you're just going to want to take a peek because you might end up biting off more than you can chew. And I kind of like this area right up here. You got this nice little secluded spot that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, clearing. It might not be the flattest chunk of land, but it is a nice little chunk of land back up over here. Super, super cool. You can kind of see you're sitting down in like a little bowl of a valley. Not too bad, not too bad. I really do like that little area right here. And then I believe this chunk of land right here is one of the spots that you can go ahead and buy. Ooh, that looks pretty thick right there. Yeah, I think we can slip on through here. This is one of those areas that you can actually go ahead and buy. Oh, look at this. A nice little clearing. So if you're going to be going ahead and doing forestry, if that's your thing, you really want to do that, it does look like you may have to cut down some trees to get back into where you're going. But then once you get back there, it does look like you have some room to maneuver around. Almost like there are some paths back here. I mean, they're not real paths, but as you can kind of see, there are little bits and clearings where you can kind of snake your way through. Maybe like that, you cut down that tree to be able to get yourself out and function. But other than that, that's not too bad. Not too bad at all. So as we kind of get ourselves a little bit closer to town here, let's go ahead and take a look at this, because this area right here off to the side is one of the spots that you can actually go ahead and purchase for one of those lay down yards or whatever you want to do. Unfortunately, this is kind of a downer about this. This lot you cannot buy yourself. It's in with that, oh, I think it was like a $2 million setup where you can buy all the little bits and pieces like that plot over there. This is included with it. It's more or less a package deal. Maybe at some point we might get a patch where this gets to be sold separately. But as for right now, you're going to end up having to buy this along with everything else. Unfortunate, but it is a nice little setup. If you do want to start a factory over here, or a factory area, or maybe your own farm, this is a nice little spot for that. Alright, so there are a couple other spots that I do want to check out here that are buyable chunks where you can kind of get yourself set up and rocking and rolling. So here is one of our sell points. Kind of like the main hub of the town, the main hub of where things are going is right over in this area right here. So keep that in mind when you're ready to rock, when you're ready to roll, when you're ready to get yourself going. This is where all of the action is really sitting at and everything's kind of happening. So yeah, let's keep on driving down here. This is where you got your rock crusher, your sell point, your fuel station, whatever you call it, whether it's petrol or gas or diesel, whatever you want to call it. And right up over here, now what reason why we're coming over here is this area right here is your shop. This is where you go ahead and you buy all your stuff, your bits and pieces, and this is where it's going to end up spawning. If you go ahead and reset a vehicle, it's going to show up right over in this area right here. So kind of keep this in mind, that if you're buying stuff, this is where it's coming from. It's not like you can go ahead and respawn it and it's going to come back into your farm location. This is where it's going to end up being. Now on the map, that ends up looking like right there in comparison to where your main farm is, if that's where you choose to start. So kind of keep that in mind. And actually what we're going to kind of go ahead and do to kind of demonstrate that just a hair, let's get this back off. There we go. We're going to drive kind of over where the normal farm is. Not normal farm, your starting farm is. And that'll kind of give us a little bit more of an opportunity to see a little bit more of the lay of the land. Plus, it also kind of sees the path that you're going to end up having to take. If you're looking at, just by this path that we're going here, if you're looking at getting a larger harvester that you don't want to get a header trailer, it's looking like you'll probably be pretty good. There's not tons and tons of traffic along here. You probably will be able to snake stuff through. There's not many trees by the edge. As you can see right here, this bridge is actually a fairly wide bridge. You probably could time it right where you can get out, so kind of keep that in mind as well. But obviously, I'd say probably you're going to want to look at getting a header trailer, just for the simple fact there. Now, off to the right-hand side here, this is all purchasable land. And as you can see, guys, it's fairly wooded. Oops. It is fairly wooded here, so a nice plot of land to do your harvesting of trees. Good cash in this. Good cash doing harvesting of trees. But as you can see, it's very hilly. It's not It's not like some of the maps that you'll see out there, even some of the starting maps. The forestry areas are really bumpy and undulated and all that jazz. That's not what's going on here, so I wouldn't beat yourself up too bad. You should be able to navigate stuff fairly easy. And, yeah, we missed our turn, but right back over there is actually where our starting farm location actually is. But let's go ahead and take a turn right here. Kind of back over in that area where we first started off, where the little fishing location is, give or take. We're going to head up over this way because there is another location where you can go ahead and have a starting farm set up. Or at least I should say there is an open field for you to be able to do your starting farm. And that location is right here. So you have this area right in here if you want to go ahead and have a starting farm right here. This location is it's only $295,000. So you'd own all the way back there. It's a nice chunk of land. Even if you want to plow it under and make your own field or do grass, or like I said, maybe even start your own farm. It's not a bad location. You have enough flat areas in there where if you do want to set down buildings, you're not going to run into issues or anything like that. You should be able to handle doing stuff fairly well. And right across from that, we do have another nice field where it's relatively decent sized, but it does have some elevation changes. Even with all that being said, guys, the stuff I'm saying here, these fields, you can go ahead and do them with smaller equipment. You just may have to think about it a little bit more. Maybe instead of driving directly uphill, oh my gosh. Holy cats, that's going to be difficult. That's going to be very difficult back there to harvest on that or do anything on that little hill. But even with that being said, if you go ahead and you take a look at what you're doing here, maybe you have to plan out how you go ahead and harvest. Maybe you have to plan out how you'll go ahead and plow. You may not be able to just go back and forth like you want to. You may have to plan it out where you are going at specific angles to get yourself around. I mean, the roads are... this is what I was talking about right here. You have these little areas where you can go ahead and traverse. It's not too bad at all. But you just kind of have to plan stuff out on what you're doing. Now, these roads out here, they're not bad. So, like I said, there's hardly any traffic. You have the opportunity to drive around here really without much issues or many issues. It's all looking pretty good. Off to the right here, this is that little plot of land that is the cheapest for forestry. As you can see, even though it's the cheapest plot of land, there are a bunch of trees on here already, really to be able to dig yourself into, and it's got a nice slope coming down over there. Pretty slick. I really do like these little forestry areas like this they're smooth. It's smooth, but there's elevation changes. Some of the ones that are like really bumpy and lumpy and undulated, yeah, I get that, but sometimes that can be kind of a big pain in the butt. So let's come up over here. Now this is where the most expensive field is going to be hanging out, and it's right out up over here. And just off to the side of me is that largest plot of land that you can buy that has forestry. And as you can see, we are just going, and you really can't see too far back in there unless you get like these little tiny openings right there where you can kind of shoot down and in for getting your trucks in, your machinery in, you know, all of that jazz. It's all pretty darn slick. Let's go like this. Let's turn that sucker off. And yeah, I mean, even on this biggest field right here, you can see that up here at the top, you are sitting at a slightly higher elevation than all of that looking down into the valley over there. It's pretty darn cool. It's a nice view, nice elevation changes here. Obviously, you're working on a bigger field. You're going to want to look at getting a slightly bigger harvester. You can do it with smaller ones, but it's just going to take a little bit longer. But definitely you might want to look at something a little bit bigger just for horsepower wise to be able to get up and down and all around over here. So at this point, guys, if you give me just 1 second, I want to put my Mary Poppins hat on and we're going to fly up into the sky and get a good aerial view of what's going on. All right, now that we're ready to go, let's jump up into the air and take a little look-see of what's happening from the sky. Now, as you can see, guys, this is that field that we're looking at. Not too bad. It's kind of like on a little plateau or whatever you want to call it, and it gently slopes down and into a little valley, which is essentially kind of what we're looking at here. A little higher land coming down into a little valley area. Pretty slick. I do like this map. I do like this. Like I said, growing up in rural USA, this really does have a rural USA feel to it, where you're sitting in wooded areas where you got little chunks of land where there's fields all over the place. Pretty neat. Pretty darn neat. I personally can't wait to get on this map and give her a shot, give her a go. Not sure what I would do. Honestly, I'm not sure what I'd do. I think on something like this, I would almost want to dabble in both forestry and doing arable crops, just because the field prices are so expensive. You're definitely going to want to look at supplementing it to be able to get yourself out of a hole quicker. Now, you don't have to, but there's just one of those things that I would probably want to do. But, you know, I tell you what, why don't you comment down below, tell me what you would want to do on this map. You go ahead, download this map. Don't take my word for it. Download it. Let me know what you guys feel about this map. I personally, like I said, I think this is a great map. It's got a really nice feel to it. Like I said, I just can't wait to jump on this one myself. Hats off to Haggis. I mean, this is great. Absolutely great map. But guys, if you're liking what you're hearing, liking what you're seeing, go ahead and smash that like button. If you want to help the channel out, go ahead and hit that subscription. Ooh, I tell you what, that really does help out a ton. Ooh. Oh man, go ahead and hit that notification bell, turn it on, and have it set to all. That way you know when this and other great videos are coming out. Guys, go ahead and share this with somebody who's from rural America, or is curious about rural America, or likes trees. I don't know. You know the people better than I do. Oh boy, guys, I tell you what, I'm gonna love this one. I'm gonna have fun on it. But until I get to that point, thanks for stopping by.